Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show. Yeah, baby. Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, episode 102. What an incredible show we have in store for you guys today. We are extremely happy to bring on another fellow dispo king in the business. Somebody who I am genuinely, he's a competitor of mine. He's like a legit competitor. We compete, but as we all know, the spirit of our world and the spirit of our business is collaboration. So we collaborate at an even higher level than we compete. We run very complementary companies, but beyond that, I've watched Ramon, who is our guest, Ramon Martinez, go from literally just a handful of deals here and there to growing one of the nation's largest wholesale operations. He continues to crush it week after week after week, doing all kinds of business. And he throws one of the most incredible networking events that I have actually been able to speak at and attend personally. And just really happy to have you here, Ramon. Welcome to Wholesale Hotline.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me, man. It's truly an honor. Oh my God, what can I say? I've been waiting about 100 episodes to get on this. What is it, like 101? I've been waiting about 100, so definitely truly an honor to be here, man.
Amazing. And yes, there was a question in the chat. Is today going to be about dispositions? And we will absolutely be focusing on that because dispositions is one of the ways that Ramon has really changed his business. And so we will absolutely get into that. But I wanted to begin a little bit by diving into the power of networking. As you guys saw in the beginning of the episode, we talked about you networking in the comments. Pace and Brent are constantly reminding you guys to network with each other in the comments because people are gaining friends, they're meeting business partners, they're doing business, they're doing deals all live in the comments. So guys, first and foremost, take advantage of that. Use Wholesale Hotline as a networking event. We often have 500, 600, 700, 1,000 people live watching the show. And if you're not promoting yourself in the comments, if you aren't letting people know who you are and where you're working and how you can add value to their life and how maybe they can add value to your life, you're absolutely missing the point. So make sure you're doing that. It's super, super important. Now, when I say network, I mean network. I don't mean come in there and like start talking about a product or this or that. You will get blocked if you do that. So just quickly, housekeeping wise, guys, we had a few folks last week. Again, nothing against any of the businesses that people are promoting. We love everybody. But at the same time, when we have a guest on, it's about the guest. And today it's about Ramon. Ramon, welcome.
Gentlemen, thanks again, man, for having me. I'm super excited. My God, three giants of the game. Holy crap, this is definitely truly an honor. So happy to be here, man.
So Ramon, crack this open a little bit. Talk to us about when did you start your business, and did you just start going with the Keegley style model where you are networking and helping people sell their deals, or did you go direct to seller? Because I think that there's really a crossroads when you're starting your business. I really do. Yep. You're either going to direct to seller or you're going to play middleman, and you're going to find the opportunities to network with incredible other wholesalers and agents and people in the business and match them up with cash buyers that you have built relationships with or that are in your disposition pipeline. I mean, how did you start that, and why did you start the way that you did?
Yeah, so initially, I think we started just like everyone else, trying to go direct to seller, this and that. Keegley's been a huge help in our early beginnings, and even now, like Jamil mentioned, we do so much business with you guys, with all the team. But initially, yeah, we started going direct to seller. Thousands and thousands of text messages per day, voicemail drops, 20 cold callers. It was just going hard at it, man, going hard at it. And then, we got to a point where, we were getting good at selling to the Hispanic community. And I think that's where we were able to differ ourselves and maybe have a little bit of our own spin on things. We were very well connected after a while with all these realtors that we were meeting. Whenever we would lock up a deal, we would meet with several people at the property, these Hispanic realtors, and then we started building relationships, this and that. And so that's when we started seeing, well, we might be able to, because sometimes our deals might be gone or something. We said we might be able to get them something else from somebody else. And so that just kind of started developing from there. And then one guy, Max Jimenez, he calls me the Mexican Keegley at one point 3 years back. And I was like, wow, like what, I was weirded out. I'm like, first of all, I'm not Mexican, man. And I'm just kidding. I am Mexican. So he said that, and I was very flattered. I'm like, oh my God, that's like some very big shoes, for anyone to fill. But I was just, that little comment just kind of opened something up, with the Hispanic community and us. And we just kept on, digging into that a little bit further. And then, it came to a point to where we started getting some traction in that, and then that turned to be about 50% of our business, I want to say. A lot of, I think dispoing really keeps the lights on, keeps the events going. But I think, wholesaling and being direct to seller, really helps you to move the whole company forward. We really see dispo as kind of like a thing that helps the entertainment side keep going and keeps the lights on and the employees and everything. But for real big chunks of money, as you guys know, there's nothing like being direct to seller, man. Like we have 3 or 4 $200,000 deals in the pipeline right now as we speak, just by being direct to seller right now.
Yep.
You know how I met Ramon a couple of years ago? He brings up like he specializes in the Hispanic market. So let me tell you a couple of stories. So I did a deal with him. Actually, I bought a sub two deal from Jamil, and I sold it on seller finance to one of Ramon's buyers. But before I knew Ramon's buyer, I had somebody in town, another creative finance investor. I reach out to, I go, hey man, who has access to the Hispanic community? Because these Hispanic people don't want to talk to me for some reason. And he goes, Ramon, you got to talk to Ramon. And bro, I'm telling you, it untapped a whole new world for me. And then all of a sudden, Ramon's like, hey, I also want to take you on some appointments. So I went on a couple of appointments with him and end up sitting at a table with a chicken, a rooster, like sitting on the table next to me as we're working at a deal with the seller. And I'm like, yeah, this dude's got like, he's tapped into the Hispanic community, like full on rooster sitting at the table with us. It was great. And Ramon did a really good job building his brand and building his network in that community and becoming well known in Phoenix. It goes back to what Jamil was talking about at the very beginning of this episode. Like, guys, you need to make a name for yourself. Start in the comments on Wholesale Hotline, network with people. People will remember, oh my gosh, I met you. We met on Wholesale Hotline. We linked up. We did this. We did that. Make a name for yourself, because listen to what Ramon is saying. That making a name for himself in one specific thing helped him build momentum, blinks his eye, wakes up one day and goes, holy crap, I've got tons of traction and tons of momentum. And now I've got mariachi bands leading me into a freaking event that I put on every single month. So making a brand for yourself after building some momentum in a specific niche is a really, really understated thing that you just talked about.
The thing I'd like to add to that is the relentless authenticity that Ramon brings to his name, right? And how he does it. He's constantly like, you guys, and Ramon, I want you to go into your story and tell people about, where you come from, because he was a famous Hispanic singer. Him and his brother, they had a band. It was called the Ramones.
There you go.
I'm kidding, but
I'm like, what?
but but they had a CD out. Like these guys were legit. They were legit, and it was awesome, right? But that they went from there, and then I know you had some other situations happen in your life where you were doing all kinds of things for cash, but looking forward as to like your getting loud and you making a name for yourself. I mean, you are undeniably and unapologetically you. And that is why I think so many people have resonated to you, why so many people love you and want to be a part of what you're doing, because you're so real. You're honest. You're true to who you are. You don't give a crap what anyone's going to say. If you want to have a banda play at your event, that's going to happen. And who cares if you're gonna do whatever you're gonna do, and it's beautiful to see that. It's beautiful to see somebody embrace themselves, embrace their culture, embrace their people, embrace what makes them unique and the things that they love about themselves. And I just gotta hand it to you, man, because it's such a hard thing for people to do. We are always so worried about what other people are gonna think of us and how we're gonna be perceived. And that's the reason why so many of us are quiet, why we suck and fail at shit, is because we're too worried about what other people are going to think, and we're not happy to be ourselves. And so just, grateful to you for having the courage to be you, and just incredibly impressed at how much that's taken off and resonated with people.
I think you bring a good point. Maybe like about a year back, we started losing our voice, and then we kind of started losing ourselves in who we were. And all of a sudden, Rodrigo and I were like, hey, we should go back to like our roots, like ourselves. Like, who are we? Like, we're forgetting who we are. Like, we got to let people know, hey man, we're a couple of Mexican kids that are used to sell English Bulldogs. They used to play in a band that now are starting to create a little bit of buzz. And I think once we accepted that more, because honestly, we were trying to hide from our music background. For a lot of people that don't know, we recorded over 30 CDs in the music industry. You could Google right now, Rams, R-A-M-S, de la Sierra.
That was close, man. That was pretty close.
Did you just say 30 CDs?
We have over 30 CDs. We had, record labels. We're signed to a lot of major record labels. We toured the country. One of the bands that I used to play in personally with came out in Breaking Bad. I mean, they did the Narco Corrido song. So I used to play with that band as well. And, we were in a couple of scandals on El Gordo y la Flaca as well. I mean, we were out there, man. But
you were in scandals in what? What, say that?
Yeah, what kind of scandals? Tell us about them.
A couple of scandals. We try to go after like the biggest name in the music Mexican industry, and we called them out on live world news on outside of one of our shows. And it was just, we were like in the middle of some crazy chaos at one point. But we were younger, like you're looking like 10, 15 years back. But that didn't work out. Like the music stuff didn't work out. Yeah, we were out there playing, but there wasn't really any money. A lot of the musicians will tell you, you get a lot of fame, and yeah, you're out there, but you're really not making any money, man. You're making maybe a couple of grand a month if you're lucky, even if you're well known. So we felt like we failed at that. And then I started going into corporate and working for the banks, and I got fired, and I sold dogs, and then I started this because I was ashamed.
And like you kind of got under some fire and some heat for the dog thing, right? Like what was that all about? Yeah,
so I got fired from my job, right? And then I was like, okay, well, what do I do? I had an English Bulldog. I started selling English Bulldogs, but I went crazy. I went crazy hard. Like, let me put it to you this way. I was selling English Bulldogs to the Phoenix Suns, to the Cardinals, to the cheerleaders, to the doctors, the lawyers, judges. So I became like a very big, well-known English Bulldog guy in town. But I landed on TV twice on the news, and not for good reasons. And I said, all right, I need to get out of that. And so the first time I was like, they'll forget about me. And I came out on the news again the following week. I'm like, okay. My mom was like, hey, you're on the news. Oh, awesome.
That's not the only time you've been on the news. Ramon was on the news last year for for disciplining his kid
Oh,
who went on a
God,
joyride and
yeah.
stole his car, and Ramon took all of his shit and put it out on the front lawn and let all the neighbors come and take all the kids' stuff. And it was
Man.
hilarious, actually. The look on your face right now is like you were wishing I didn't bring that up. So I'm sorry that I did.
I forgot about that, man. Oh shit, that did happen. Because coming back from a music background, I always imagined and dreamed that I would be on these massive TV shows about my music. And all of a sudden, I'm the parent that disciplines a kid. I'm like, this has not turned out the way I thought it would.
Well, I think it's turned out incredible for you, Ramon. I think, I
think you found the right industry. Let me ask you this, Ramon, because this is something that cycles through my head every single week, if not every single day. A very old Dolph DeRoos quote that says, the deal of a lifetime comes around once a week. Do you find that to be true?
Great quote.
The deal of a lifetime comes around once a week. And you just mentioned you've got 2 properties now pending that you're going to make over $200,000 each on. When did this start becoming real to you? When did you start saying, oh, wait a second, I can really make something special out of my real estate business? The deal of a lifetime does come around once a week. When did that start really building up that momentum? Because you're going from dogs, you're going from being in a band to now, over the last 3 years. Has it been 3 years? Has it been 5 years? Like, how long has it been? And how many deals are you doing right now? Just to give context to everybody that's watching here, because I think that's important.
Yeah. So last year 2 years ago, we did about 130 deals 2 years ago. And then last year, previous year to that one, we did a little bit over like 180. And then last year we did about 234, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Just, not counting like our fix and flips and all that. But to answer your question, I was in the mentality that all deals were like $5,000 deals and $10,000 deals forever.
Yeah.
Because every deal that I would do, I would only make $5,000. I'll make $10,000, $5,000. And I was a $5,000 and $10,000 guy. And then I saw you, Brent, at one of the events there. I think it was like Freedom, I want to say. And you said a lady gave me her house for like $1 or some shit like that.
$9,000, yeah.
And then you're like, you made like $200,000-$300,000 on it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, my deals are like $5,000. And this guy just said he just made $200,000-$300,000 on one deal. And my mind was like, okay, well, I guess those deals do exist. But I think it's about believing and, first of all, being around the people that are doing these bigger deals. I always hear Jamil and Pay, 150, 100 here, 200, 3. So, like, the moment you start associating yourself and seeing that these things are possible, like, these things start happening every week. The deal of a lifetime starts happening every week. Like, we just did a deal where we're about to make like 250 on. And then we just locked up another one that I said this week where we're making about 180, 200. And that was like back-to-back weeks where these deals are just happening. The first time that it happened, I was like, holy shit, Lord, please let this happen for me. Like, I need one of these, and then it happened again. Lord, once again, I know we had this conversation. And then it happens again. You're like, okay, I think this is kind of like the new norm, But I think once you start believing that they can happen, you just start calling it and throwing it into the universe, and people just start showing up and these opportunities start happening. I mean, honestly, we started seeing decent revenue, I want to say about a year ago. What's decent? Maybe, hitting close to the $1 million mark. I mean, that's a lot for us. Shoot, I come from I used to live in my mom's garage, and that's just like net to me, by the way, not like the company and everyone else. So I saw about $1 million I think it was maybe the beginning of last year, I want to say, when I first saw like real money, where I was like, holy shit, I have $1 million. Of course, I did the wrong thing to some people, and I bought a mansion. I bought a Lamborghini. I got trips, private jets, vacations, and I started doing all these crazy things, and I nearly went broke towards the end of that. And that was like a huge rude awakening, because I did everything that people said that I shouldn't do, and I listened to all these people that I look up to, and I did everything wrong. I got the mansion. I did these things. I put a movie theater in the mansion. I just went spend crazy because I've never had it. So I started buying everything I could. But then it took a little while to get back into, like, okay, I'm going to be okay mode after I did all these things. But I think within the last year or so is when we started barely seeing the fruits of, a 3.5, 4 year journey.
Incredible. And that's it, right? Let's highlight that. He's seeing the fruits now of his last 3 to 4 year journey. And that's just something I want everybody to take to heart. This is not something you're gonna learn this now, and you'll get a deal, you'll get another deal, you'll get 5 deals, you'll get 10. But even then, the journey of how to do it correctly as an entrepreneur happens in time, over time. And oftentimes you got to stub your toe and make some errors and do some things that don't make sense. And again, no one's faulting you for buying a Lamborghini, Ramon. I mean, they're freaking great cars. It's awesome. And it's the nicest yellow Lamborghini I've ever seen. And it's great. You deserve it, right? You deserve it. You deserve the beautiful house. You deserve the car, and all the things are like honestly great. But it's also even more refreshing to hear you talk about how that puts you in a financial bind, and you had to climb out of that. And that's a part of the entrepreneur's journey that you don't get to see on IG. You don't get to hear about that or see that in pictures because, you're still driving the Lamborghini, right? And so no one knows, like, hey, that kind of hurt. It was a little bit of a pinch on my life, and I had to pivot and do some things. And so it is incredibly important to share your experience in that, because there's going to be people here who are going to follow in your footsteps and make a ton of money, and maybe they'll be tempted to make some decisions that they might think otherwise of after hearing you. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's it's I know that it might have been not the greatest decision, because I could have done other things. But I mean, the real reason why I did it is because, we didn't grow up with anything. Growing up, I had a failed marriage. I lost my house, lost my car. I ended up in my mom's garage, not even, this decade pretty much. And so my kids are 10, 14, 15. And I saw that they were getting older. They're getting older. Hell, the 15-year-old, 16-year-old, a couple of years away from being an adult. I said, if I don't do it right now when they're little, like, those are the memories that I want. Unfortunately, time will not stop for me to become the successful person that I need to be. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make these sacrifices for them. I want them to grow up in a mansion. I want to take them in a Lamborghini to school. Even if I sacrifice my financial smarts that I know I'm sacrificing, the accumulating things that pay for my things, my why behind it wasn't so much that I was just dumb and I'm just going to buy stupid things, is that they're still in such a small age where I want to give them that for their youth. I want them to bring their friends from school into that house. I want them to drive my Lambo over, to the school dance. And so that was kind of like my sacrifice. But of course, I had to work extra hard to get back into, like, holy shit, we're not going to lose the house mode. Luckily that we're barely coming back to that mode where we're starting to expand. We're hiring. Holy shit, we're about 8 here in the office now. Like, what the hell? We have a receptionist. I have a personal assistant. Like, what? That's ridiculous. I only saw it in real offices. I walk in and I have a person there. Hey, would you like some coffee? And what do you need? Like, oh my God, like it's barely starting to come back. And now, I think we're stronger. What doesn't kill you make you stronger. We almost died, like, putting all these things. But luckily, I bought that mansion at the right time, right before shit got super ridiculous. And now I can't buy my same house for under $2 million. So, I mean, I do have a shitload of equity in it. Am I allowed to cuss? I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
Yeah, you
Be
can.
you, brother.
You can do you.
Okay.
Pace swears all the time.
So it's still there. I mean, yeah, I made the mistakes, but the equity started growing, and once my kids become a little bit older, I'm gonna liquidate all of that. I mean, I don't need any of that. I see myself in a condo somewhere, having fun. The wife and I just going out, traveling. So yeah, I guess there's different ways to fuck it up and still come out okay at the end.
Yeah, if you were to go back and talk to yourself when you started this, what would you do differently? Like what are you doing now that's so much more successful? Is it just reps? Is it just experience? Is it just, or is it a totally different strategy? Like what is different now than when you started?
I wish I would have focused more on the whole relationship building part. I wish I would have gone to more events. Like if I would have met the right people more times, can you imagine if I meet the right person 10 fucking times in a row? Like I just met the right person once, you know, and then we just kept going and doing deals with that one person. Then maybe met another person another 6 to 8 months later. I wish I would have been in the room where the right person is more times. You know, I've met a lot of people that go to events and they meet the right person. A lot of times, all of a sudden, they grow their network and this and that. And you know, I think it's very people that are selfish and want everything for them and don't want anybody to know what they're doing, and like they stay small forever. They stay that one man operation forever. Like if you're sharing everything that you have with everyone, like I think you're gonna get there quicker, man. Like you know, see what other people need, what they like, how you can help them, and all of a sudden those deals start coming. And hey, I have this one, I have that, I have this and that, and you start going a lot faster. I mean, you know, Keegley, holy shit, we do deals with you guys like all day long. Like we're always working together.
What's that old phrase that is talent wins games?
Teams win championships, baby.
Teams win championships, right? So when you collectively build a team of other people, even if it's through collaboration with your competitors, that's how you win the championship. You can't stay a small mom and pa unless you can't dominate, right? You can just win games and have some base hits and do some deals, but you're not going to dominate the industry if you're not collaborating with other people.
You guys are the perfect example of that. And, you know, and it's weird, like the more books that I read, because I'm doing a book a week challenge right now for myself where I want to read 52 books every week. I've done that. I just finished that book, Who, Not How. Yeah. And at the end of the book, it just pretty much goes over everything that you guys are doing. You know, it's saying about collaboration, find a lot of the who's for the hows. How do we do this? We'll find a group of the right who's. And I'm like, holy shit. These guys must have read that book like fucking 3 years ago.
Yeah, Brent gave it to all of us and forced us to read it.
That's right.
Oh.
Not only that, but I think it's interesting if you. So what another mind trick that I play is who's my personal board of directors. For real. Like if I were to put together a big company, who's going to be on my board? Who would I want on that board? Well, I want somebody there that is going to challenge me. I want somebody there that has talents that I don't possess. I want somebody there that has an extreme amount of experience. I want somebody there that has wild amount of optimism. You know what I mean? Who is on your personal board of directors? When people talk about, well, you're the 5 most people that you spend the most time with. Well, guess what? You get to make that choice. Okay, you got to make that choice.
That's such a huge nugget, though. Like we don't get to choose our families, but we get to choose the people that we fuck with. You know, and that's just it. Like that's just it. And I mean, you know, you see even Ramon. I mean, he's in business with his brother, just like I'm in business with my sister. I mean, you know, I chose the people. I chose Pace. I chose these juggernauts to be around me, Josiah Hunter to be in my life, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to be around people that think small. I'm not going to be around people that are okay. I'm not going to be around people that are satisfied. I want to be around hungry people because I'm a hungry man.
Right.
Makes sense.
I can attest to that. I've been on the road with him. He is hungry.
It's going to really show.
This is a great question I want to jump into. I've left it on the screen because I love this. This is a great question I want Jamil and Ramon to answer. Darren says, I'm looking forward to the info and deal structure wholesalers need to set up and present their deal properly for a buyer to make a quick decision. I can tell you right now, this is my biggest pet peeve with wholesalers. Okay. I am not a wholesaler. I do wholesale, but I do not consider myself a wholesaler. There are people that strictly focus on wholesale. And then when they're brand new in the business, they text you from, let's say, pulling a buyer's list or whatever it is. And they go, hey, I got a deal on these cross streets. What would you pay for a house, a 3-bed, 2-bath house on these cross streets? How am I supposed to give you a real number on that? Or they say, hey, I've got a house. My number is this. And I go, perfect. What's the address? Like, why do I have to beg you for the bare necessities on a deal? So Jamil and Ramon, if you guys wouldn't mind, I'd love to break down for the audience, like what would you expect for, let's say, a wholesaler in Phoenix to send you an opportunity via text message? What are the bare minimum things that you want to see in that text message so that you can quickly make a decision as their potential buyer?
Address, price, pics, title, occupancy, close of escrow.
Okay, walk through those just real quick, because title and occupancy might go over some people's head. What does that mean?
Okay. Address, obviously, give me the address of the house. If you're not interested in sharing the address of the house with me, I'm not interested in you. Price, I'm not going to guess here. And I don't want you to say to me, tell me what number you'll pay, because that's stupid. Tell me what number you want. Okay.
Yeah.
Pics. I need to see the condition of the property. I want to see the front elevation. Don't send me dick pics. Send me pictures of the house. I want to see the front of the house. I want to see the back of the house. I want to see the yard. I want to see the bedrooms. I want to see real pictures. Title. What title company are you opened at? Are we going to be able to do an assignment? Are we going to need to do a double escrow? Are they going to give us problems? Occupancy. Am I inheriting a tenant? Am I inheriting an occupant? Is there a post possession? Tell me all about that. Are we vacant at close? And what close of escrow date are we looking at? Because I need to be able to structure and shuffle money.
Is it impossible to assume people can gather that information on a house they have under contract?
If they can't gather the information, they don't have the house under contract.
That is correct. So whenever I get a text message from a wholesaler missing, key components, I go, you don't have this under contract. Ramon, do you have a separate set of guidelines or anything that you look at outside of these items?
Not really. I mean, I think wholesalers need to know who they're working with. I mean, if you're trying to start a relationship with somebody that knows what they're doing. I mean, you're trying to get funny with it. I mean, you're just gonna burn your bridge to start out with. Let's say you're bringing somebody else's deal to Jamil, and Jamil knows everyone, and he could find out where this deal comes from. I mean, you should probably phrase it. Hey, I found this house from another guy. You might have seen it, you might have not. Let me know if you're interested. But if you're bringing me Brent's property, and I'm already on Brent's list, my guys are on Brent, so we can see right away. And next thing you know, you're bringing me Brent's houses all the time. Like, why would I go to, I might as well just say, hey, these are my buddies. Even if you don't want to say the name, I'm helping one of my buddies move it. I think that's the best way to gain credibility. Because if you become one of those guys that are just bringing somebody else's houses, like, people that are in this know where every house comes from.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Jamil, I just want you to say those items one more time. I do have it on the screen.
Address of the property, price that you're asking, pictures, current, title company, occupancy, close of escrow.
Okay, what about, this is an interesting one. What about comps? Hamza says, what about comps?
I don't bother people with my comps, because I believe that every buyer is going to run their own. And I'll be honest with you. I see comps that sometimes people send me, and they're completely out to lunch. And the fastest way to ruin your credibility with somebody is by not knowing how to comp, by crossing over a major road, leaving a subdivision, giving me a single story comp for your 2-story wholesale deal. Right? Like these are rule breakers. I'm not going to deliver comps, because I think that anybody who's going to pull the trigger on a deal, that's actually going to pull the trigger on a deal, is going to very quickly be able to identify and verify numbers on their own. I will tell them what I believe ARV to be, but I'm never going to give them a repair estimate, and I'm never going to give them comps. That's their job.
Okay, so here's a question for both Ramon and Brent, or all three of you guys. Why is it that this industry is riddled with people who are sending out deals at incredibly crazy prices? Is there somebody out there outside of Wholesale Hotline educating people incorrectly on wholesale prices and ARV? Are they using the wrong software? Maybe they don't have a mentor, or are they just absolutely lying, hoping to find a bigger idiot? Like, what the hell is going on?
Here's what I've come to the conclusion of, because I've had conversations with people, as Keegley, we do a ton of JVs. We do a ton of co-wholesale. Right. And so for me, I get to see a lot of the craziness. And so I've got on the phone with people sending me the craziness, and I've just asked the question, what are you thinking? Like, where are you coming from here? And here's what I learned. I don't think that there's a malicious intent for people to go out and find an idiot. I don't think that's ever really it. I don't think people are like, I'm gonna go pull one over on somebody and I'm gonna steal money. I'm gonna tell them to buy this deal and they're gonna buy it and it's not a deal. I think what happens is that people get so excited because a seller said yes. A seller said, I'm interested in selling, but they're not willing to negotiate in price.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this isn't a wholesale opportunity. This is a retail deal. This is a deal that they should have referred over to a real estate agent. But rather than doing that, rather than taking the advice of things that we've talked about, go make friends with a realtor so you can send them leads or referrals and take 25% referral fee, or go get your license so that you can list those opportunities or whatever it is. Rather than take that advice, they say to the seller, yeah, okay, let's try. And they do, but there's no deal there. So because there's no deal there, they're going 2 miles out, 2.5 miles out, and they're trying to create a story so that their work or their excitement wasn't in vain. And oftentimes when you face a wholesaler and you just tell them, this isn't a deal, right? They'll say, yeah, I know. I know.
Really?
Yes. They know it. And it's like, I'll get a DM from somebody, be like, Jamil, I got the best opportunity, la 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 la. And then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna send me the address. They send me the address. I come, but I'm like, this isn't a deal. They're like, yeah, I know. I was just hoping. Like, okay, well, like, what is this? And I think honestly, it's a lack of education out there. People really aren't spending time, bro. They're so in. Okay, for instance, I run a comping show every week. Okay. And people will come onto it, and it, sometimes there's a ton of people on there and sometimes there's not. Whatever that is though, the one thing that I can for certain say that I see more of on that show are just people who have no freaking clue. They're putting addresses in the chat for a completely remodeled home. Okay. A completely remodeled home that's been on the market for 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, please comp this. Well, first and foremost, I don't need to. You should. It's on the market. It's on the market. It's listed on the MLS. It's completely remodeled. What about this whole concept of wholesaling are you missing here? Because the fact is that if you knew that what we do as wholesalers is we go out and find opportunities, that our job is to sell potential, not retail houses, this wouldn't have even been in the chat. This wouldn't have even been a question for you. So I think it's just, people not knowing. They get so excited that somebody's got, something that they'd be interested in selling that.
Okay. So, Brent, I want you to give an answer on this, but I kind of want to lead into something a little bit different. So Jamil's given a good answer. See a lot of people in the comments loving this question, loving this answer. But I see T-Town Supreme and a handful of other people saying, hey, you know what? This is one of the reasons why our industry is going to be regulated. Brent, do you find that real estate agents are any better at comping or get trained better at comping than wholesalers ever do?
No, and I don't think that's, I mean, with all respect to T-Town, I think that it's more probably a money grab for the National Association of Realtors and for some of the brokers around, some of the people that are really pushing. If you look at who really is pushing to get more licensing, it's the department or the National Association of Realtors.
It's the people who are making money,
what
right?
I will say is when you are dispoing, and this is something that's really important and something that we look at, and I just remembered the breakdown here, but we look at it in 5 different buyers based on the condition of the property. Okay, Pace. So this is what I think people get real confused about, because if there's not meat on the bone, it's not a deal. But there might not be meat on the bone, and you can sell a small property to a developer that likes the land, and you can get over retail value. The fact is, ARV is determined by a ready, willing, and able buyer. It's not determined by us. It's not determined by the market. It's not determined by interest rates. It's not determined by realtors. It's determined by a ready, willing, and able buyer. All right. So first off, when we're starting out, typically we need some help. We need some people that can work with us and help us get our deals sold. So the lowest that we typically make is when we sell it to another wholesaler or another wholesaler sells it, right? We split the deal. That's fine. We're learning the ropes. We're getting used to it. We don't have the buyer base. We're not going to make anything without them. So let's go for it. Next, you get into, oh, now I know a bunch of fix and flippers. Now I know if I have an ugly property that needs a lot of love, I can send it over to them, make a decent amount, and they can go and make a decent amount. Next, if the property's in decent condition, and it could be a rental, especially in some of the lower price marketplaces, then you could sell it to somebody that's a rental and you could push the value on that because the cash flow makes sense. After that, you go into the developers because there's potential there to do something better with that land, with that property, or add to the square footage. And then last, if a property's in somewhat decent condition or in a very popular area, you sell to somebody that wants to buy and live there, somebody that wants to put in the work themselves, and that's how you get more per deal. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't think that people are out there trying to be malicious. I think that people just don't know who their audience is. Let me tell you this. If you have an ugly house that needs a lot of renovation and you're trying to get 90% of fair market value, you are not going to succeed. You're just going to piss people off. They're just going to look at you like an amateur. So pull it back a little bit. Get under the umbrella of somebody that knows what they're doing. If you don't have the buyers, if you do, then go towards them. But if you don't, pull it back and really get that education so you know who your buyer is. That'll help you determine how much you can make on those deals.
Okay, so Ramon, thank you, Brent. That was phenomenal. Tons of people in the comments are loving that. Daniel Radcliffe, bro, I loved you in Harry Potter. Like that was phenomenal, man.
Yep.
The Sorcerer's Stone.
The Sorcerer's Stone.
So
So Ramon and Jamil, the Dispo guys on the screen. Daniel asks, would you cold call a list of buyers before having a deal, just so you have them in place when you do find a deal, or should I just work on getting a contract first?
So I'll start.
Yeah.
With us, we have relationships with everybody on our buyers list. We have called, talked to them, had them opt into our list. They're expecting to see opportunities from us, and we're curating those opportunities, meaning we're only bringing them the opportunities they want to see. So Daniel, from a person who specializes in dispositions, the answer is you absolutely should create a relationship with your buyers before you just cold blast your deal to that list. It's like going, and I'm going to use a crude example here, but like if you're doing online dating, right? And you're online dating and you're just going into all the pictures, or you're just going into people's chat and you're just sending them pictures of your junk. Okay. There might be one or two people in a year who will be like, nice. But for the most part, you're going to get a lot of growth, right? You're going to get a lot of stop it, or I'm going to call the police, or you're going to get a lot of people upset at you. Well, that's what I feel like cold marketing to an email list is like. Okay, it's like junk pics in the inbox. Don't do it. Create a relationship. Don't be that guy. Be the person who goes out there and is actually knows why they're sending this to a person, and the person receiving it knows why they're receiving it.
Well,
Okay, Ramon, here's a follow-up question for you, Ramon.
Yeah.
Is it better for me to have 5 solid buyers that I could go take to lunch than it is to have a list of 5,000 buyers I pulled from some list?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, Jamil, he definitely knows, sometimes when we're blasting the shit out of like our list, like we'll get blocked. Sometimes our list will be down. I don't know if maybe that happened to you at the beginning where they would just shut your shit down and they want proof and this and that because just you had so many buyers. I don't know if that happened to you. But for us, sometimes our blasting gun will be down for a freaking week or two while we're trying to figure out how to talk our way back into the good graces of the systems that we're using. So what happens at that point? Like, do we stop working? Do we no longer have a business? No, we're still working, but now we're working with, the one-offs. And honestly, for us, I mean, we really just blast things to stay relevant, with our buyer base and all that. In reality, most of our deals, the ones that we're working on, usually don't even make the list. Like the good deals, they're usually sold to the one-offs that we're already working with. I mean, we had this lender, my cousin Christian used them to buy a house. And then the lender said, hey, I have this one guy, he's selling his house in California. He wants to buy some here. He has about $1.5 million. He wants to buy maybe 4 properties. So Christian sold him 4 houses in 1 week to the one guy moving from California just for investment purposes. So it's not necessarily, blasting everyone all the time. A lot of times it's more about, having those one solid relationships that you could keep eating for a long time with. Because, if we're blasting everyone all the time, then like you said, sometimes one will get blocked because we might have blasted some shit, that we shouldn't have, or maybe we blasted too much stuff. But I think ultimately I'll do the 5 relationships, out to lunch technique all day long.
Okay. So Brent, here, there was a comment earlier a couple minutes ago. Somebody said, well, the problem is when I'm talking to these potential buyers, they don't want to talk to me unless I have a contract.
Sure.
What would your response be to that? Obviously that's a one-off conversation, but what would be a good opening line, maybe a script?
Yep.
And do you have a script somewhere on like talktopeople.com or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that listen, certainty goes a long way. Certainty and likability goes a long way when you're having those conversations. So if you're telling them that you haven't got a deal, but you're out there hustling, you're out there looking under every rock, you were in the streets all the time looking for amazing opportunities. And when you find one, can I reach out to you? If they say no to you, get rid of them. They're the wrong buyer. But listen, I also think Dispo is a real tricky game. It is a lot different than generating the leads with the seller. Dispo is interesting because when we get really big deals, Pace, we close them. Like, we're not going to just blast them out to everybody with, because we've gotten bit a couple times where the cousin is a realtor and was on our list and talked to the seller.
Yeah.
They wanted 40 grand more. Or, there was a time here, Pace, if you guys remember, about 4 years ago, where people were taking everybody's deal and getting a squad of people to go and try to backdoor them and go to the property owner.
I was in litigation
for
a year and a half. That one guy that was doing that to everybody, I was in litigation with him for a year and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, one, if it's a bigger deal, and when I say bigger deal, I would say probably over 40K for us in our market, maybe 20 to 30 in some of the other markets. If that's the case, you need to close that deal. If not, you need to find somebody that has buyers, or find a very solid buyer that you can make one phone call and have that conversation and keep it real tight knit. Real tight. If you look at these big companies that wholesale, and all the big companies wholesale something at some time, they have one big buyer or 2 big hedge funds that they send it to. And that's the truth. So it just depends. You got to really learn the Dispo side. If that's the most confusing part of it, then you need to talk to somebody at Keegley for real. The other thing I want to say is,
this
isn't just hyping you up.
No,
this is something that I will say off, without you here. You know what I mean? It's just, you need to find somebody in your market that knows what they're doing, has a really solid reputation for selling the deals, and that will give you the time of day.
Thank you, Brent.
Yep.
The other part of that is that avoid making sweeping generalizing statements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of my buyers don't want to talk to me
Right.
unless I have a deal.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not trying to
We all do
rag
that.
on you,
Yeah.
but here's the fact. Okay. That's not true. Not all of your buyers don't want to talk to you. And if that's the case, then you might only have one buyer, and that buyer probably doesn't know you very well, because everybody that I do business with, if I call them right now, they're picking up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Jamil's calling me. What is he got a deal for me? Oh yeah. I got to answer this call. They're not going to send me to ignore. They're interested in talking to me because I mean money. Right. So then I would say is that you haven't built rapport. You haven't built a reputation for yourself yet. Your buyers don't believe in you yet.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the attitude that they're presenting you with, so you have a little bit more work to do on the front end of those relationships is probably what.
Just explain disposition. There's some people that are just
Yeah,
joining
there was
us
a great,
for the
I
first
was going to
time.
jump on
Welcome.
that next.
Let's have Ramon explain disposition.
Hold
because
on. Can we answer this one
Yes.
question real quick for Medium Wave Dave? He's such a supporter. I'd love to answer this question real quick and then jump onto that, because I think that's a longer question, right?
Sure. Yes.
What's the normal close rate for a dispo company like a Keegley or Wholesale Sharks?
So he means how many deals are we actually selling
Mhm.
versus how many we're actually sending out,
Right.
or putting under
Yep.
option,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We're at 70%.
That's phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
Ramon, you got a number there?
Yeah, I mean, if we're direct, if it's nowhere else, I mean, and it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, we're up there, man. I think, we have maybe I would say maybe 80% as well. And just because of that, because we do have those relationships that are ready to buy, like the deal that we did with you, Brent, recently, we had that person ready to pick something up in that area. So the moment that we're always scouting for these people, like Jamil's saying, we're asking, where do you need it? And we usually have them just ready to tee up.
TTP. Define
Disposition.
dispo. Define dispo.
Listen, so there's 3 parts of real estate investing, and we talk about it on our opening, on the Wholesale Hotline opening, right? There's lead generation, that's the engine of your business. That's where you find your opportunities. There's conversion, that's the sales side of our business, where we are pre-qualifying, following up with those opportunities and getting them under contract so that we have an agreement, we have a commitment from that property owner. And then we have exit strategy. Now, exit strategy, one of them is to assign that deal or to disposition that deal to a cash buyer, to sell that opportunity, to sell that contract to a end buyer that wants to buy it and do something, whether they're going to flip it or hold it, or that's it, or they sell it themselves or dispo it themselves. So when you look at any deals in real estate, you're either assigning it, you're buying and holding it, or you're flipping it. That's what you're doing. So keep things real simple here. So disposition is just one of the strategy for making income in this business.
Love it.
There you go.
Jamil, by the way, my wife sent me a text and she said, make sure to tell Jamil, thank you for making our company $65,000 this week.
How'd he do that?
His company sold us a deal. We're fixing and flipping it in Gilbert. It's on the market. Got an offer. We're netting 65 G's. Look, there's Cody Barton saying hi. So Jamil, your dispo strategy. So guys, this is what's amazing about this business is there's so many different ways to make money. I've bought deals and sold deals to Ramon. I've bought probably 50 deals from Jamil and fix and flipped them. I've sold 150 to 200 deals through Jamil and his company. There are so many ways to collaborate in this business. It is so fun. Jamil didn't even know I bought this deal in Gilbert and we're making basically 65 G's. You had no idea, did you?
Kind of. Just because I whenever I see Laura bought something, I'm like, ooh, what'd she buy? Because your wife can pick houses better than you can. And if I know if Laura bought the house, I was like, crap, I should have bought that one.
Yes.
She's
so
incredible.
I appreciate you tremendously. If I want to buy a deal from a Keegley franchise, how do I do that? How do I buy a deal from you?
Same way you would a corporate store. Reach out to me on Instagram. We'll connect you. There should be a landing page I set up in the future here, but for now, just reach out to me on IG until we get that set up.
Okay, so same thing for you, Ramon. I've got Jason Lindstrom says, is Wholesale Sharks just in Arizona or are they also in other states? And how can people do deals with you, bro?
Currently we're only in Arizona, man. It's one of those things that we're piloting and testing, and we wanted to make sure that it was an actual real thing before we even considered or thought about expanding into other places. I mean, we do get a lot of messages from people saying, hey, when are you going to do the event over here, over there? Which is amazing. That it never even crossed my mind that people were, paying attention to what we were doing. But it's definitely something that we're gonna be looking at doing at some point. There's definitely so much potential, man. All this started as just an idea, as something that just, hey, that sounds good. Go ahead and put a logo or something. And all of a sudden, it's taken a life of its own. We have more employees now to help us manage it. But I think, if people want to connect, Wholesale Sharks is the Instagram page, or Dispo Sharks is the Instagram page. But I think you mentioned something great there, Base, how, everybody's collaborating. Like, people think, oh, why do they have Ramon on the show if he's a competitor, blah, blah. dude, I'm doing deals with all three of these people here at the show. Like this month, we've probably done a deal with each person. Pace, we're in one that's going to like probate right now or something like that.
I have no
it's
clue.
like, right? Yeah. So don't worry, we're working on it.
Somebody on my team probably knows about it.
Well, we'll get it. We'll get it.
Am I the buyer or the seller?
You are the seller of this one.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know when you get paid. I'll send you a text. Hey, you got.
I don't know if I'll ever get paid. That's the problem. Cody will reinvest it
show up
into some
somewhere.
rental or something like that.
Anywho, I mean, it's all about doing, actually working with people. There's this weird mindset out there, man. And I know maybe it's like taboo, where people don't want people to learn, from people that they work for, or they're intimidated by, let's say, Brent hires me and I start learning. I want to be just like Brent. That's why I'm learning for Brent. There's this stigma out there that I shouldn't learn as much as I can from Brent, or else I'm going to leave his company and do it on my own. Like, what do you guys think about that? Have you guys run into any of that lately?
Oh my God, I run into it all the time.
Every year. No.
Yes.
It's interesting, Ramon. I think at our core, we're teachers. So I think that's part of it, whether they want to learn it or not, we're going to force it down their throat. So, I have plenty of people that have been acquisition managers that have started really successsual businesses.
And are you proud? Doesn't that make you proud? Like, holy shit, this other person, I built them, and now all of a sudden, look, he's a dude, and now we're doing deals with him now, and this and that.
Yep.
Like,
oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean,
Billy Bell is an example of that, right?
Well, Billy Bell, Luke Rotfold, Allie, we got Natasha, we got, mean, they're all out doing stuff.
Brent has had some of the most incredible cold calling assassins in his workforce. And like you just mentioned, they've all gone off to start their own companies, and they all come back and love on you and do deals with you.
Now
and
lend them money.
And you lend them money, right? And so it's awesome. There's a path. There's a path to making that an easy conversation and an easy out. I don't want to bring somebody into my company or into my fold and smother them and dim their light and take away their God-given right to do and be the biggest thing that they could possibly be. That is wrong. That's that right there is fear.
Woo!
I'm not going to allow fear to dictate the way that I do business and how I treat people.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at it from a place of love, and I'm going to say, how can I bless the people that I'm working with to be the best and brightest versions of themselves? And if that means that their lamp is next to mine, and if that means that their lamp is brighter than mine, amen.
Yeah, if somebody's around me all the time and I'm not rubbing off on them, we got a problem.
100%.
We got a big problem.
Okay, well, talking about fear, Alex has got a good question here. How do you guys get a potential end buyer from swiping your deal by talking to the seller? I'm virtually wholesaling and having problems filing a memorandum. Who wants to take this question?
Well, first of all, you have a written contract with a property owner. I mean, essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to coerce them into breaching a contract. I mean, any attorney, you can take that to any attorney and really make it sticky if you really want to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For people that are trying to go back behind and just try to, bully people that aren't used to doing business or used to having attorneys on staff, then they're going to have real problems when they run up to the real gangsters, to the real people that know this business. You know what I mean? Like, don't play that game, because our budget's way bigger. So if you're just getting started out, have that confidence that you had the relationship with the seller. The first thing you got to look at is what happened to that relationship with the seller that made them want to go with the higher price than somebody else that they know they already agreed with you. There's the bigger problem, is when we get those real fast deals, when they say yes right away and we don't have enough time to build in a relationship, then that's usually the root of that problem, is that the seller's going out and they're keeping the conversation open to other buyers.
Here's my feeling of that is, do you guys agree that buyers that go around you are not actual buyers? They are some form of another wholesaling company.
Always.
I've never, ever had a legit buyer go around me. Never. Usually it's somebody else that's trying to do dispo, and somebody else, like the guy that we all know in town has done this. He did it to me. He went and knocked on a door because he saw my house on a list. Why did he do that? So he could then go ahead and go co-wholesale that or wholesale that himself. He wasn't actually trying to buy it. So guys, here's a
No.
great question. Alan says, best way to distinguish serious buyers from the rest that will just turn around and remarket your deal. A lot of wholesalers, co-wholesalers hate when I do this, but it's really simple. Just go to corporate records and you can see when an LLC is actually buying houses. If you type in my name or my LLC's name on Maricopa County records, you'll see that we've bought 100 houses in the last 90 days. Okay. If you have a buyer, all you have to say is, what's the name of your company? What's the name of your LLC? So I can put it on the assignment. Go look at that LLC. You will see that that LLC has never bought a property before. Therefore, they are more likely than not. They are not an actual cash buyer. They're a wholesaler. It's very simple. There's nothing more strong than going and looking at public records to see if somebody has actually bought a property or not.
But I'd like to dissect this statement a little bit further, Pace, because there's a part of this statement that I think we should address.
Okay.
Because Alan says, what's the best way to distinguish a serious buyer? So now he's put the word serious beside somebody who he calls someone that's going to actually close it, versus the rest that'll just turn around and remarket. Well, first and foremost, the guys that are going to turn around and remarket might be able to sell that deal for a lot more money than you. Secondly, why is there such a problem with getting help from other people to complete your promise that you made to a seller?
I don't think that's the problem.
Acquisition wholesalers cancel their deals because they sit until the last 2 days of inspection. Then they call Keegley or Dispo Sharks or someone and say, hey, come get into my corner and help me disposition this. I'm in trouble.
I don't really think that was the vein that we were going down, even though it's a really wonderful point. The main vein that we're talking about are people that are snaking and stealing deals behind people's backs.
Well, no, he's saying turn around and remarket your deal.
I understand that, but I positioned the question after the previous question to stay on that vein. I wasn't trying to highlight that, but it's a really great point, right? The first 100 deals that I ever did, I sold through Keegley. Mm-hmm. And you not only made more money for me than I would have on my own, but you actually did it in a more structured, succinct, communicative way than I ever could have done it when I was trying to build and elevate myself through the ranks of this business. So 100% people that are remarketing a deal are wonderful, 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 especially when you're jumping into a new market.
Right.
Why go out and establish buyers right away? Why not just find a disposition company like Keegley? You're in 90 markets. Why not just find a Keegley? That's what we do. Like when we did our Zero to Hero challenge last summer in North Carolina, what was the first thing I did? Did I go find buyers or did I just go talk to Jim Wills?
Right.
I go, hey, Jim, we're starting in this market. I need you for probably a good 100 to 180 days. And we relied entirely on Jim Wills to dispo our deals for those several months before we went out and built it. Bro, remarketing is an absolute wonderful thing. It is a wonderful
100%. It's just so many folks have this visceral issue with people because it was what educators had said in the past, right? No, don't let anybody see. Hoard mine. It's not how it works. I just seen so many deals get canceled. I've seen so many wholesalers get themselves stuck in a situation where they're completely screwing a seller over because they couldn't connect the dots because they've got this idea in their head that just because somebody's helping you by bringing a buyer to the table that they're not serious.
Yeah,
that's where I think there's a problem.
I think it's also the bait and switch.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm the buyer. Yeah. I'm the buyer. Yeah. I'm the
but
buyer,
sometimes
but they can't close.
Sometimes they are the buyer, but sometimes they're looking at the deal and the deal just doesn't make sense. I mean, I get this happen to me all the time. Somebody sends me a deal and I'm a buyer for a lot of deals. Mm-hmm. But if the numbers are just not good enough for me to take it, well, then I'm not the buyer on this anymore, but I can help you.
Well, here's the difference, Jamil. I was next to you 2 days ago when somebody called you to sell you a deal. And your question to that person was, are you asking me to commit to this deal or would you like me to market this deal on your behalf? It was so clear and defined the relationship. And then the person goes, well, I don't really care. Like, I know you're a buyer, but if you can make me more money, I don't care. Just help me out with the deal.
Right.
I think the challenge with people in this industry that don't like the co-wholesalers is that relationship a lot of times is kept secret from them of what is actually going on. Right. They don't say, I'm not your buyer. I'm actually going to go find my buyers, because there's a lot of fear in this industry. Do you agree with that? And is there
100%.
something we can do to fix it?
It's just this whole idea and this notion that if you're being helpful, that you're daisy chaining versus actually providing value and adding, a real value to a situation. And, Ramon, you do this, you co-wholesale quite a bit. And there's players in town that don't get your permission, and you'll see a deal that you send out get sent out in 4 or 5 other lists. Let me ask you, does that piss you off, or do you not care because sometimes they bring a buyer?
So a lot of the deals that we work with, first of all, we'll ask, hey, do you want us to send it to everyone? Do you want us to keep it discreet? Do you want us to send it to our VIP repeat clients, and we'll let them make that choice? But usually our process is never to blast. We don't really blast anything initially. Like, we'll try to get it sold off the, offline. And then once it lands on our list, that means that we gave it all we could. And now it's like, whoever can bring anything to salvage this is welcome. Like, whenever our deals hit the market, that means that that's our last resort. But at that point, we don't give a shit. Like, it could be on 1,000 lists, and as long as somebody comes back to us with somebody, I mean, that's just kind of like all hands on deck at that point for our process anyways. But there's some that actually buy another list. Let's say they get a list from somebody else, right? Another local player. Hey, I'm your buyer. And then they come to us and they say, hey man, help me sell this. Right? But don't blast it. I don't want that other guy to know. I want him to think that I'm the buyer. So at that point, we'll say, hey, we'll keep it hush hush, baby. Like, then we'll sell it to like one of our end buyers, one of those, one of the lender investors that he has from out of town or something. But that's usually how it works, and we see that a lot of times, as that strategy is really very popular here in Arizona. But at the end of the day, it's about making it work. And if you're transparent, then it's fine. Like you're saying, do you want me to commit, or do you want me to send it to finding a buyer? I think as long as you lead with that is great, because I know for us, when we say we're buying, it's because we're buying. Like in December, we bought 14. I mean, it's not a lot compared to 100, but for us, 14 houses. I mean, when you do the numbers, 10, 15 grand to close on each one of these. I mean, that's 150 plus another 10, 15K, 20K on each to remodel. You're already out, another 200K. So you're putting out there, 300-400 grand on 13, 14 houses. So for us, when we say, hey, we're buying this, because we're usually buying it, but it can get a bit difficult when you have something locked up and somebody else wants it. At that point, we'll go back to the person that sold it to us and say, hey man, we were buying it, but there's somebody else that wants it. I mean, are you cool with us just, still closing on it? Do you want me, is it okay if we assign it to somebody else? But we usually get permission for all that up front, so that way there's no miscommunication.
Jamil, how many franchisees do you guys have?
We now have 100.
No way. And where are they located? Name all
Everywhere.
100 right now.
Everywhere.
Alphabetically, please.
How can I find out? Is
By
there a
city.
central website, or is there an email you can give to people if I want to reach out to a Keegley franchise somewhere and do a deal with
Yeah,
Keegley?
email me, Jamil@Keegley.com. Jamil@Keegley.com.
Are there any franchises still for sale, or did you guys basically sell out?
No, we have 560 franchises still available.
Amazing.
You're
Amazing.
gonna go 600.
And
660 is our cap.
All of your franchises, Jamil, by the way, are amazing. Like, we do deals with your Vegas franchise. We've connected with some people in Texas as well. Like, every single one of your franchises, they're on point. Like, we've been able to do things, with a lot of your franchises. So I could attest to that.
They're trained by our corporate store. And so, of course, everybody's going to have their little different idiosyncrasies and specifics of how they like to work. And that's fine. They're independent business owners and they're entitled to that. But for the most part, their systems and processes are standardized from Keegley Corporate, and they're there for a reason, right? They're there to maintain quality, to maintain integrity, and to preserve the brand. And thankfully, we've come across and have been able to attract some incredible operators who have helped us do that. And I'm just so grateful to every one of our franchises. I see one of them on tonight, Phyllis Rodriguez out of Salt Lake City. She's such an incredible woman. a complete go-giver, and you attract who you are, right? I always feel that a company has a soul. A company has a soul, and its soul is what is made up by the hearts and minds of all the people who make up that company. And that soul will vibrate, and it'll bring to itself and attract to itself opportunities that are in alignment with the soul of that company. And that's just how it works.
Brent Daniels, you
Yes.
want to answer Jared Frankum's question here?
Yeah, listen, there's a couple different things that we use in our business just to make sure. One, just like you said, Pace, you got to look up who they are. Who is this person? Who are we selling this to? Do they have the ability to close? And we just ask them, are you going to, we have no problem. Honestly, we have no problem if somebody's going to take it and they've got a buyer and they're going to mark it up 5, 10, 50K, whatever it is, whatever their thing is. We just ask them, be honest. Are you going to sell this? Do you have a buyer for this? Or are you the buyer? No, I got a buyer for this. Great. 5K non-refundable.
Right. Or are you looking for a buyer? There's that part too. Like, do you have a buyer? Are you going to get out there and look for a buyer?
And the conversation goes, hey, listen, I have a buyer that's been looking in this area. It is perfect. They want it. I know that they're going to do it. I know they're going to perform. That's the difference between that and, hey, can I get this deal? Send me the assignment. Send me the assignment. We're like, who are you? Send me the assignment. Send me the no. Who are you? And then we get rid of all of those. So there's a vetting process there. And I think that, you build a reputation for filtering out people that really are just kind of trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And then they have to put in their earnest money. And in our assignment agreement, Jared, to follow up, we have it so that if they don't put their earnest money in, then we can resell it. The assignment is null at that point.
And,
null
and
void.
if a wholesaler is marketing your deal, they shouldn't be requesting an assignment in the first place. They should be requesting an option, right? An option gives them the right to market it. An assignment is not the process. You can convert the option into an assignment once all the connections are created and all the dots are connected and the buyer's in place. Then you convert option to assignment. But in the beginning, we're not there yet until we have the buyer in place and all the things are there. And so I think what's happening, Jared, if I can maybe try to read your mind a little bit, is your co-wholesalers aren't being very communicative with you, and they're not explicitly telling you, Jared, I'm not buying this, or I don't necessarily have a buyer quite yet, but I want an opportunity to try to find one. And because they're not communicating that to you clearly, you're assuming that they're asking for information and trying to get details about the property because they want to buy it. And that's where the whole murkiness happens, right? And so everybody who's watching this, if you are getting into this business, but you don't have dollars to market, you can't do a text blast, you can't cold call, you can't afford to buy a list, even though Pace gives away $5,000-$10,000 worth of data every time you watch Sunday service. Even though these things are available.
I gave away an $1,800 iPhone last night. Y'all were sleeping on it.
Yeah. It's like, you see, like there's constantly opportunities and ways to get resources. But if you're just getting started, and if your way of adding value to the community is by connecting the dots to buyers that you're going to go out and mine for, then just tell people that. Just say, hey, look, I don't have a buyer yet, but I have relationships with a few. But make that real. If you don't have a relationship with a few, go get those relationships. And when you have them, then start having those conversations with guys like Jared to let them know that you can connect the dots and do the deal. Because Ramon just clearly spoke to us about numbers of transactions that he's doing where these guys are actually completing the deal, connecting the dots and making it happen. Ramon, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars do you think you would leave on the table every year if you didn't do business with people like that?
Oh man, it's incredible. I think I want to say maybe it's about. Let's see. I was looking at the numbers. It's maybe about 50% of a lot of the transactions that we do are from other people that are involved as well. I mean, and maybe that's why so many people go to our events, because I mean we're feeding America over here. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You can't close out any of these opportunities because I mean at the end of the day, everybody's have kids to feed, everybody's got families to eat, and we were all there at one point. So as long as somebody's, genuine and says, hey man, I don't have anybody, can I try to move some of your stuff here and there? Like, yeah, then, we definitely have no problem with that. As long as they're genuine, they're not trying to pull anything funny. I mean, because at the end of the day, we'll figure some shit out, if things are working well or not. Because there's so much transparency in this game. Like somebody will say or call somebody out.
Jamil,
I love this question.
I knew you would, bro. This one's all for you. Uzoma, that's a dope name.
Yeah.
How can we find buyers for cash flowing rental properties? This is one of my favorite topics, but I really want Jamil to answer this one.
Oh man, this is so easy. So I'll take the property, okay, and I'll go and I'll input it on Zillow, and I'll toggle the filter from sale and sold to rent. And then I'll see all of the properties for rent near my subject property. Then what I'll do is I'll see which of those are owned by LLCs.
Boom.
And all of the ones that are owned by LLCs, I will skip trace those LLCs, and I will call the owners of those LLCs because they are landlords who own in the area where my subject property is.
But
So,
why
of
does an
course-
LLC tell you that it's a landlord?
Well, typically landlords put their properties in LLCs to limit their liability if a tenant slips and falls or burns their hand or flushes themselves down the toilet. Things can happen in life, right? And so landlords, knowing that they should go to primecorporateservices.com/Jamil to get their LLCs in place, they know. They know.
Wait, what was that?
primecorporateservices.com/Jamil to get their LLCs in place. They know that it's important to protect themselves from having situations where they could be exposed or create problems for their lives and their families. So that's why they put their properties in LLCs. So that's how you find a landlord who likes to do business exactly where your deal is located.
Let me ask you this. In your experience, do the people that want to add to their portfolio go after properties that need a lot of renovation? And this is to you and Pace.
Yes.
Okay. It has been the exact opposite for me.
They want a turnkey.
Yeah. Well, not turnkey, but under 30K.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want a hoarder. That's a fix and flip buyer, right? They don't want like broken down foundation issues.
So you're saying that if somebody has a really, really rough house, they shouldn't be targeting rental buyers?
No, they should be targeting fix and flippers. If you've got a turnkey, dated, original condition house, but it's super livable, right? Like
unless they do it both, like Pace.
Unless they do it both, like Pace,
Yeah.
correct.
I switch it, bro.
Talk to me about that, Pace, because I think that's really, really, really important for people to understand, because I think people, you fall in love with the romantic idea that, this property would be great for somebody's portfolio, but it's totally destroyed. And the conversations I have with most people that are just looking to build their rentals, they have a full-time job, they're doing something else, they're doctors, they're attorneys, they're business owners, they're whatever else. The last thing they want to do is hold up their life to do a big renovation.
Yep.
Do you see the same, Ramon? Do you see the same? Like, let's talk about like some of the differences.
I typically see that buyer is, I call them the bigger pockets buyer.
Yes.
Okay?
Oh,
They're the people that go on Bigger Pockets and learn that, they're kind of the 9-to-5ers, the hobbyists. They're doing maybe 1-2 rentals a year at the very, very most.
Yep.
And you're right. They've got a 9-to-5 or more. And all their game plan is like, all right, I'm going to listen to Dave Ramsey and Bigger Pockets.
Yep.
And I'm going to retire in 20 years from rentals by just slowly doing it. And in that vein, they don't want to have a massive amount of renovation. Okay. Now, when we buy rentals, we're actually buying one right now that has $200,000 in equity. We're going to keep it as a rental. We could take it as a big cash out, but the reality is if I burr that deal, it will truly be the only burr in the last 70 burrs that we've done that I actually can pull out all my cash. So for me, the deeper the deal, the worse the house. It is better for me on a long-term buy and hold, but I'm not a hobbyist. I'm a full-time real estate investor.
Right.
Whereas the majority of real estate investors are like, I'm going to have 10 houses by the time I'm retired, and they're the Bigger Pockets crew.
I love that. Myron put on there, Bigger Pockets buyers want all the duplexes. I don't know how many people have talked to me
House
about
hacking, dude. House hacking. They
House
do
hacking,
house
bro.
hacking.
I'd love to hear from Ramon about where he's finding his cash flow and rental buyers. If you would chime in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of we sell to a lot of accountants. I mean, we've had a lot of success with accountants. They usually pick up, they pay a little bit better for the properties just because, like you said, they're just going to rent them out. They really don't want to put in that much work. I think also the realtor population, there's a lot of realtors out there that are moving very quickly right now on rental properties in town. They're seeing what's happening. So they're getting more involved. I think that's definitely huge right now in the market, where a lot of the realtors are starting to, look a little bit more this way than before, where I think, they're going to be a key player for a lot of the Phoenix market in this next coming year. I mean,
you want to know our number one place of cash buyers that want cash flow in all of the country? Anybody have a guess?
Cash buyers for rentals?
For rentals.
Oof, what's a good price point that's booming? North Carolina?
North Carolina.
No, not. I'm saying source of cash buyer buyers, like buyers. It doesn't matter where I'm in the country. It's the same exact resource. Where do I go if I want a buyer?
Oh, for rentals?
Yep. Property management companies.
Yeah. Nice.
So there's a company, I'll show you them online. Name of the company is On Q Property Management. I didn't even realize this, but my wife used to work for On Q. Okay. And then when I started getting into everything that we're doing here, I'm like, what was cool about, what was that guy? His name was Eric Dixon. He worked at On Q Property Management. And my wife goes, oh, his full-time job was to work for all their clients looking for more properties for them to buy.
Wow.
I'm like, you're joking me. You're freaking joking me. That's his whole-time job.
Yeah.
And here's what I've learned. I'll show this to you guys. The name of the company is right here. On Q Property Management. They're one of literally 1,000 property management companies here in Phoenix, Arizona. If you called any property management company, any one of them, and said, I have cash flowing deals, how can I bring those to your buyers? How can I bring them to your clients? Every one of them welcomed that phone call. Every single phone call.
Brilliant.
Awesome. You know what else is brilliant? Over 500 people watching tonight. Thank you so much. If you are getting value out of this, make sure, if you're not subscribed to my channel, to Pace's channel, to Jamil's channel, subscribe, and how about that podcast?
Ooh, guys, we've been really, really happy. A lot of you have been going in and reviewing us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. Please continue to do that.
Wholesale Hotline
on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Go give us a review if you're getting any value from this show. It really helps us when you put a review out there, because people know that we don't suck, and they might just
bigger our squad.
Tune in. The bigger the squad, the more deals you do, the more people that are in the chat networking with you. And so continue to do that, guys. It's really, really helpful to us. But also, if you want to connect with Ramon, how do you get a hold of Ramon? Ramon, where can people find you?
I think the best place to go is at a bar. I'm usually like in bars around town. I just pick one and I'm usually there.
Is that a bar right now?
I'm a raging alcoholic. And I'm just
actually, if I'm looking for Ramon, I know exactly where to find him.
Yeah,
Las Vegas.
Go on.
Uh-oh.
Vegas. Woo! I love me some Vegas.
When I see Ramon more often at the airport in Vegas or in the lobby of the Cosmo than I do in Phoenix, Arizona. And that says something about both of us.
Vegas, dude, we're usually all in Vegas. Like, remember that one time where I was like at an event and you're like, hey, we're at the event. You leaving? I'm showing up here. Let's trade tickets and seats and shit. Like we're usually running into each other in all these places for sure.
It's great. So we can find you on Instagram. And also if you want to do deals with Ramon, because guys, he brought something to the table today, which is super valuable. And I don't want to gloss over this. I want to dive into it a few more minutes before we end. The niche dispo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's label this the niche dispo, because he has cracked the code on the Hispanic market. And if you're looking at trying to sell properties to the Hispanic market, and they're different than people buying on the regular market or on the open market, aren't they, Ramon? They might pay a little bit more money. Oftentimes they use private lenders, or they use alternative financing sources, because some of them may or may not have the necessary documentation they need to qualify. And so this niche of the Hispanic buyer is very, very different. Can you dive in a little bit about what the advantages are of working in that niche, and why it's important that people tap into it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, I think, I hear you guys say about, the deals, that they have to be good deals and this and that. But a lot of times, like with our Hispanic market, man, like these guys just want to find a house to live in. And since we're so well connected with a lot of the Hispanic lenders that will refi an I-10 buyer, and even if they could get 10, 15, 20,000 below ARV, and they still go in and they put 20% down, and our lender can refi them out, like they're happy all day long, man. And, I think that's kind of where we started at, and that we started growing. But now we have such a tight community with our Hispanic lenders, and we belong to the National Association of Hispanic Realtors, and so we've been able to lock in a very good pocket for ourselves. And at the end of the day, nothing's easy. I might sit up here and people might say, "Oh, it's easy." There's nothing easy, especially when you have amazing companies like Keegley that are founded on fucking excellence and amazingness and quality. And it's very hard to go in there and start a small dispo sharks, a small wholesale sharks. So at the end of the day, you have to become so valuable that people like Keegley say, "Hey, these guys are okay. Hey, these guys are cool."
You're better than okay, bro. You guys are incredible.
So
you're on Wholesale Hotline, homie.
For people out there, you have to become better every day. And yeah, we have days where we feel like we're horrible, and then we have days where we feel like we're amazing. But you just have to keep going. Our niche, it truly is the Hispanic market. From 3-4 years ago, when Max Jimenez called us the Mexican Keegley, it didn't click until 2-3 years later that, holy shit, we have a lot of Mexicans that we sell to. And all of a sudden, that's kind of our value add, where we're very, connected to that. And, at the end of the day, if somebody brings us a deal, odds are that, Keegley's going to get it too from us. Hey, I'll send it to Colby. I'll send it, "Hey, Colby, when our people send us this deal, let me know if you can move it," and vice versa. Like we all really are well connected. But at the end of the day, the person that benefits is the wholesaler, because at the end of the day, they're not really worried about, "Oh, who sold my deal?" They're worried about, "Oh shit, let's get this thing sold. I don't give a shit if you sell it to your grandma, if you sell it to whoever, just get this thing done." But if you tap into like a Keegley or like us, we're all connected, and at the end of the day, it's one big superpower that you can utilize in having your tool belt. We don't ask to be exclusive. We're not out there promoting, "Oh, we're the best, we're the new biggest." We're promoting, what, we're another option. Give us a shot. If at the end of the day, we could help somebody, then great. We earned to eat that day.
It's wonderful. You add a lot of value to the community, Ramon, and I love that you're humble, but you at the same time, you're a king, bro, and wear the crown.
Oh, much love, man. And I want to thank you guys too for being at my last event. You guys really made it happen. I mean, Jamil roasted the shit out of my jacket, which is not even the same color anymore. That thing's like freaking charcoal. It used to be blue. Brent crushed it. He was saving people on his way out, because of the fire marshals and all that. Because I call Brent a superhero because he fights crime. And Pace, he was sitting there front row, freaking bonding and enjoying and, watching the admiration, his amazing wife that he has, who's a super woman. It's like such a beautiful thing. And then he agreed to go up on stage and talk for about 2 hours. So it's like, dude, how much better could this thing be? Like, it's a complete dream come true for me. So, I love all three of you guys. And
thank you, brother. Thank you.
It's just a true honor to have been doing, deals with you guys and being acknowledged by you guys.
Hey, Brent, before we wrap up the show, I would like to give a bell ring to a girl named Erin Moore. I want you to ring it after I tell you this quick little story. If you want to bring that bell up to this desk. So Erin Moore, she's a pilot, and she has been driving for deals since last October. Okay. I just sent her a text message right here. You can see that I sent $5,000 earnest money on her very first deal. Here she is getting the news as she's, she works at an airline. So she's on a plane just saying, oh my gosh, this is my happy face. This is my happy face. She got it by staying consistent, guys, for multiple months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you, hold on. Can you guys see my screen share? I guess you can.
We can see it.
That's super interesting how it's set
small,
up.
but we can see it.
That's interesting.
There you go.
So this is her first deal. I am buying the deal. It is full retail. I'm paying full retail for her first deal. Actually, ARV says $495 on Zillow. I'm paying $500,000 for it. I called the seller for her, locked up the contract. I'm using something that we call the Morby method, where I bring a commercial loan to the table for 70% of the purchase, and then the seller finances the remaining 30% in a seller finance note. 0 payments, 0% interest for 10 years on that seller's second position note. Gangster shit. Stuff that most people don't even know. And that is Erin Moore's very first deal. She'd be making $10,000 on a full retail creative finance deal.
Wow.
So guys, I want to tell you something just real quick. This business doesn't have to be you as an island out there trying to get these deals on your own, trying to sell these deals on your own. I can tell you, Brent, Jamil, Ramon, I've done deals with all of them. If it wasn't for Jamil selling the majority of my deals for my first year in this business, I wouldn't be where I am today. You need to squad up with people. You need to be able to leverage other people in the community, even to make calls for sellers. Erin Moore never once spoke to that seller. Never once did Erin Moore speak to that seller. She says, I think that there's an indication of pain. Here's a lead. My team set up a phone call. I closed the call. I talked to the seller. I decided I want that house from my own portfolio. And we worked at a very, very creative deal. Erin Moore didn't even have to talk to the seller one time, is making $10,000 on her first deal. Guys, I'm telling you, if you are not squatting up with each other, did you guys see Ingrid talk about her biggest deal? She's making an assignment fee, I believe, of $155,000 on a deal she's squatting up with somebody in the community. Wow. It is insane. Wow. The reason why we created Wholesale Hotline was out of pure collaboration, pure love. It's what we do here in Phoenix, and we're trying to radiate that into the rest of the country. So guys, thank you so much for showing up here. We freaking love every minute of running this. Episode 102. Ramon Rodriguez. Hey, Ramon?
Yes.
How can people reach out to you before we bounce?
Instagram, man, it's the best way. Wholesale Sharks or Dispo Sharks page. We'll be having the next event March 24th as well. People that didn't make it, come out. Yes, I will have a brand new jacket. Hopefully, maybe we could have Jamil for Jamil Stand Up 2.0 to be out there and maybe roast that new jacket. We'll see.
Love it.
Maybe.
Ingrid says that the assignment fee I said, which I told her $155,000, she says it's actually much bigger. You want to know something? I actually turned it down. I think this is the deal she brought to me. It's up in Sedona, and it's a set of lots. And I go, I'm sorry, I don't want to develop right now. Go find a developer and sell it to them. She went and did it, and it sounds like she's making over $155,000 on a deal. I
know the buyer.
That is amazing.
I know the buyer.
Ingrid's amazing.
I might.
Did I connect Ingrid with Jeremy, your land guy?
No. This is
Jared Vidalis.
No. I think Luke's taking it down.
Oh, good. Oh, he's a perfect buyer for that.
Yep.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Freaking Wholesale Hotline, episode 102. We'll see. What are we doing next week, guys? What's next week's episode all about? Who do we got?
Next week will be general Q&A.
Yeah.
So bring your biggest, baddest, and juiciest questions about wholesale, creative finance, and we'll answer them. Yep.
We'll do a better. We'll answer more questions on Wholesale Hotline. Thank you so much, Ramon, for being on here. And
Gentlemen.
that's it. Love you
Wholesale
guys.
Hotline 102. We out, baby.
See you next week.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use the one where Jamil doesn't say anything.